Mike Tyson, a name that once embodied destruction and fear in the boxing ring, faced off against Jake Paul, a YouTuber turned boxer who's built his career on bravado, memes, and a string of fights against aging opponents. The November 15th, 2024 spectacle wasn't just controversial, it was surreal. Tyson, once the sport's most feared figure, now seemed more like a relic of nostalgia than a serious contender. Meanwhile, Paul's youth and stamina, often hyped, seemed less remarkable than his knack for booking trending fights. Tyson managed to land a few jabs, but it was clear age had slowed him down. So, how did this fight even come to be? Enter Texas, a state with relatively lax athletic regulations that make it easier for almost anyone to step into the ring. Tyson may have cleared the state's requirements, passing a medical exam, blood work, and vision checks, but the fact that he could still qualify at 58 says a lot. In a stricter state, such a matchup might have been dismissed as ludicrous. Yet in Texas, this clash of generations took center stage, adding another chapter to both fighters' unconventional careers. Floyd Mayweather, never one to hold back, didn't mince words about the Tyson versus Paul fight. "This sets a bad precedent for combat sports," he remarked. Translation, boxing is officially becoming WWE with gloves. And he's not wrong. Pairing a retired legend with a YouTuber isn't just a mismatch, it's disrespectful to the sport itself. The contrast between these two fighters is glaring. Mike Tyson is a true icon in boxing history, revered for his fierce reign over the heavyweight division. Jake Paul, on the other hand, is famous for pranks, podcasts, and brawling with less experienced opponents. Tyson's prime was spent striking fear into his division. Paul's focus has been on keeping his hype alive while avoiding real risk. But this fight was more than just an odd pairing. It was a troubling commentary on boxing's state today. Tyson's legacy deserves respect, not exploitation. Yet here he was, facing a man whose biggest weapon isn't his jab, but his TikTok following. Mayweather didn't hold back, serving Paul a reality check with a velvet glove of sarcasm. "As long as he keeps fighting MMA guys and YouTubers, he'll keep shining," Mayweather remarked. "Keep cherry-picking opponents who are over the hill or clueless, and you'll look like a star. But step into the ring with a real boxer, and the glow-up will end faster than a TikTok trend." Mayweather's challenge to Jake Paul was clear. Fight a prime boxer, not a retired NBA player, a real fighter. For someone who's built a career calling out legends, Jake seems to have an odd aversion to actual boxers. Strange, right? But Floyd didn't stop there. He questioned the entire celebrity boxing phenomenon that Paul has popularized. To Mayweather, these fights are more about spectacle than skill. "It's a bad look for the sport," he said, stressing that boxing risks losing its credibility if this trend continues. And can you blame him? When fights come with leaked scripts detailing planned moments, you're not watching a sport, you're watching theater. Even the money team, Mayweather's own crew, shares his skepticism. Sure, they recognize Jake Paul's marketing genius, but for them, boxing is about authenticity, not just hype. Jake Paul knows how to sell a fight, but even his team realizes this strategy has an expiration date. Eventually, he'll have to face someone who isn't a walking retirement ad. And when that day comes, it won't just be his opponent landing punches. Reality will hit just as hard. Mayweather's skepticism isn't baseless. He's a man who built a legacy on skill, precision, and an undefeated record. When he criticizes celebrity boxing, it's not out of jealousy, it's disappointment. For Floyd, the ring is sacred ground, not a stage for influencers to settle petty beefs. Seeing Jake Paul headline fights while real boxers struggle for recognition, that's got to sting. Let's not ignore Jake's role in all this. He's not just a participant, he's the ringleader of boxing's descent into chaos. His fights aren't about proving skill, they're about generating clicks. And while this strategy has worked so far, Mayweather's right, it's not sustainable. At some point, the novelty will wear off, and Paul will finally have to face the question he's been dodging: can he fight a real boxer and win? If you thought Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson was surreal, just wait for that moment. The fight was strange, to say the least, and Joe Rogan had a theory that might surprise you. According to him, this wasn't just a match. It was a choreographed performance. On his podcast following the July 2025 event, Rogan broke down the fight with his usual bluntness. Tyson wasn't throwing with bad intentions, he said, and Jake was clearly carrying him in the later rounds. In other words, this wasn't a real fight. It was a planned show. Then things got even juicier. A leaked fight script surfaced on X, formerly Twitter, just days before the event. This wasn't some vague rumor, it was a detailed document outlining the fight's flow. And, shockingly, it matched almost perfectly with what unfolded in the ring. Tyson's strong early rounds, Paul's late dominance, it was all in the script. Rogan didn't hold back, calling out the absurdity. When a fight aligns exactly with a leaked script, it's no longer a sport, it's a soap opera in gloves. For boxing fans, this was a tough pill to swallow. The leaked script only fueled claims that Jake Paul's fights prioritized selling a narrative over genuine competition. Even Joe Rogan, known for his passion for combat sports, warned that boxing is edging dangerously close to WWE territory. The moment the public believes fights are staged, the sport loses all credibility, he cautioned. And if anyone can detect signs of staging, it's Rogan, a man who spent decades analyzing everything from UFC bouts to martial arts films. This wasn't the first time Rogan criticized celebrity boxing, but his take on this fight was especially scathing. According to him, Tyson's punches lacked their famous snap, and Paul's restraint in the final rounds felt more like a calculated business move than a real boxing strategy. They weren't trying to win, they were trying to entertain, he said. For a fight that raked in millions, entertainment might have been the primary goal. So what was Tyson's role here? A legendary contender? Or just a pawn in Paul's carefully crafted narrative? What was meant to be a celebration of Mike Tyson's legacy instead left fans questioning why. At 58, Tyson showed glimpses of his former brilliance, a sharp hook here, a quick combo there, but the urgency to win seemed absent. Some even speculated that he was holding back, possibly pulling his punches. Was it a strategic decision, perhaps? But for fans who idolize the man who once decimated opponents in under a minute, it was a tough watch. Speculation about Tyson's motives ran wild. Was he looking to prove something, or was this just a massive payday? Considering he reportedly earned $20 million, the latter seems more likely. And honestly, can anyone blame him? Boxing is a brutal sport, and Tyson has already given more than his fair share. Still, for his fans, watching a subdued Tyson play along with Jake Paul's antics felt like a betrayal of his legacy. The lack of aggression wasn't just noted by die-hard fans, it hurt the fight's credibility. Social media exploded with disappointed posts, many saying Tyson looked more like a sparring partner than a real competitor. Even Tyson's most ardent defenders struggled to justify the performance, insisting, "He's 58, give him a break." The truth is, if you're stepping into the ring, especially against a showman like Jake Paul, fans expect more than a half-hearted effort. Tyson's post-fight comments shed some light on his mindset. "I know my limitations," he admitted, acknowledging that his age and physical condition shaped his approach. For Tyson, this fight wasn't about reclaiming past glory, it was about enjoying the experience and, presumably, cashing in on it. "I'm happy with how it went," he added. While his acceptance of his reality is admirable, it doesn't change the fact that this bout felt more like a business arrangement than a competitive match. Then there's Jake Paul, the businessman behind the boxer. Say what you will about him, but there's no denying the man knows how to make a profit. Walking away with a staggering $40 million from the Tyson fight, Paul's business acumen is as sharp as his right hook. But while the payday was impressive, his approach to the fight revealed something even more telling. His priorities. For Jake, this wasn't about proving himself as a legitimate boxer, it was about putting on a show. His calculated approach, avoiding risky moves, showed just how well he understands his own game. Jake Paul let Tyson have his moments, then dominated just enough to secure a win. In the post-fight press conference, Paul made his intentions clear. "I'm focused on building my brand and taking boxing to the next level." But not everyone is convinced. Purists argue Paul is harming the sport by prioritizing spectacle over substance. "Boxing isn't supposed to be about clout," one Reddit user vented. "It's supposed to be about skill, heart, and competition." Jake's defenders, however, see it differently. They believe he's evolving boxing for a new generation that values entertainment as much as athleticism. There's no denying Jake's financial success, but it's also a double-edged sword. While he's drawn massive attention to the sport, he's also alienated a large portion of boxing's traditional fan base. For them, Paul's fights aren't real boxing. They're events engineered to trend on social media. And with every new bout, the divide between boxing's old guard and its new audience only grows wider. Even Paul's future plans reflect his business-first mindset. When asked about potential opponents, he didn't name top-tier boxers. Instead, he hinted at more celebrity matchups, saying, "I'm looking for fights that make sense financially and for my brand." It's a strategy that's worked so far, but as Floyd Mayweather has pointed out, it's not sustainable. So here's the question to consider. Is this the end of real boxing as we know it, or is it the start of something new? Something shinier, flashier, and perhaps even more entertaining, at least for the Instagram generation? The answer is still up in the air, but one thing's for sure. Whether you love or hate it, we'll all be watching, probably with popcorn in hand.